So I have a few questions to ask Khalida. And that was a wonderful introduction, Deepa, thank you.
It was amazing.
So,
don't believe in everything that you read online.
We don't know everything about your work, so if you could just share a story with us that encompasses the work you do, talk about a woman in your program who has inspired you.
Yeah. I can share so many stories. We are working with 800 women right now. It's been 3 years, and our plan is to go to 1 million women. But one of the things that people know me about is I'm really attracted to little details of life, little details of success, of failure, and everything that makes us. I think I'll just show a very, very little detail of what makes this whole program so amazing and why do we keep doing this, even if it's in very, very dangerous cultures and traditions. I'll share a story about Zainab. She's one of those women in Balochistan in one of the centers that we create. We create a Sughar center in every village where these women come for 6 months training in enterprise development, life education, basic education, what Islam says about their rights, how to stand against honor killings, child marriages, and exchange marriages. And also for basic education. I've heard about these women, this woman so many times, and one of my team members was like, you have to go meet her. There are like 23 different centers that I have to go and see and monitor and like how's everything going. I have a wonderful team who make sure everything just runs amazingly. I went and I was like, where is she? And everybody was like, of course, at her place. She was sitting in a corner, this tribal woman, her scarf on her head and even covering her face and the long dress that she was wearing. She was sitting in the corner with a pen in her hand. And she had a white paper in her hand, and she was like, come sit next to me. I sat next to her, and she was like, look at this. And I was like, okay, what? And she shows me the paper, which is white, blank, and she goes like, Zainab, that's my name on the paper. I can get my name on the paper. Do you see that? That was amazing for her. She had tears in her eyes, and I hugged her and cried, and I was like, for 1 million years, I would do this forever and ever. This is what keeps us going. This is it. It was beautiful. That's the stories that we get that keep us going.
So you have the cooperatives where the women make the products, and then once they make the products, once they're in your cooperative, they actually have courses as well. Is that correct? Okay.
Yeah, it's like the whole thing about how we went back to these villages. I've been working from 8 years. My friend was killed in the custom of honor killing. She was suspected of having relationships, and she was shot for that by her uncle. And the whole thing about a 16-year-old finding out about her friend just being killed for something that doesn't make sense. I was an activist for many years. I became this feminist who wanted to kill all the men in my community. Get rid of it, just like that. But within 3 years, within 3 years, I found out that's not possible. It's not. No murders happened. We were fighting fire with fire, and that was not the way to do it. I learned about forgiveness and nonviolence in that time. Because in the meantime, when the media was like so amazed by the 16-year-old, 17-year-old girl who was against a 100-year-old custom, and they were like featuring me, calling me, and they were like, this is amazing, and I thought that was amazing. When I was getting all the exposure, I thought that was the success. We were eventually changing policies. We got Pervez Musharraf to create a bill for women protection, but which was never implemented. But the whole thing is like, I realized 2 things were happening in between. The first year passed, amazing. People were joining us, 3,000 people from all around the world is a big deal. Amnesty International showing interest in our work. But then, within all that, I could see a very big difference in like, the policies are here, the tribal communities are here. There's a big difference. And the people in the tribal communities do not follow these policies, no matter if they are new, strong policies. they don't implement those policies. And we had to work something directly with those communities. That's when the real thing happened. While I was realizing that, the tribal leaders were also realizing something like, a girl cannot stand against us. And they came up with an agenda where they called my dad and told him that I could be killed in the name of honor. Since I say no to honor killings, which means I say yes to sex before marriage, which means I would be killed in the name of honor, which was so evident for them. And my dad was like, that's easy for them to kill you in that way. You can't just go on like that. I had to go and hide it back in Karachi. I had to go from Balochistan to Karachi, and for a long time I couldn't do my work. All the people that we had in our campaign were lost. No one was there to take this further. But that was the time when we realized we have to do something which is not against someone's values. I wear my traditional dress everywhere, the dress in big pocket. And no one tells me to wear something else because it's weird or awkward or something. And I was doing that to these people. I was telling them to wear something else, to do something else, to stand against their values. And this time we had to choose something, do something which was promoting their culture. So we went back and told them that we are going to promote your traditions. And we would promote your embroidery, where we would bring women to make embroidery every day. But of course, within making embroidery, they would be going through this life-changing process. But that was after the whole thing. But the centers went amazing. The rooms are provided by the tribal leaders, and there are times when they would offer more help, offer more support in many different ways, while these women go through the 6 months of embroidery making, creating a fashion product, as well as learning about their lives.
Awesome. So one thing is we don't often hear about the female leaders of Pakistan, and I just wanted to know if there are any in particular that you look up to.
Yeah, Pakistan's coming up with amazing, amazing women. Knowing Malala
I mean, there's tons in this room, like tons of amazing Pakistani VPs and doctors, and you know, these women are incredible. So.
Sure. I met some of you briefly, and I would love to sit down and talk to you more and get inspired. The thing is, Pakistani village girls don't just do things, they get inspired. Coming from the village where we struggled for meals, I would see my dad, my uncles who were farmers, and we're still in the mountains, but I get my education in Karachi. But it wasn't easy for a girl to envision a world very different. I was inspired by women like you. I was inspired by Benazir Bhutto. I was inspired by Malala. And knowing her personally was a treat for me because I saw her grow in front of me, which was amazing. And then there are many of these girls who live in every city who are not known, but they're doing change in their own ways. My mom was one of the biggest change makers for me. I remember she would tell me about her life. She was married when she was 9 years old. She spent her whole life for us in that moment. She was sent off to her husband's house, and she would not know what was going on. She did not understand what was going on. She was offered to several men because the exchange was supposed to happen, and it was an exchange marriage. And the whole idea of a young girl accepting a new culture and standing up for her children, she had never been to school, but thankfully my father actually chose to educate her, come to home and hold her hand, have her write ABCs and Alif Bepes and all that. And she understood how to read. When she started reading books, she was like, I can't believe there's something else out of this village, out of the walls of my house. When she was a bride, but she would go on top of the trees and see outside of the home. Which was very weird at that time. But then she would see, like, there's something else, and she would like her children to find that out. And she asked my dad to get out of the village to a city where we could go to school. That was the first time they chose to actually leave the village from the mountains and go to a city where we were born and went to school. So that's a really big change maker in my life.
I really like asking this question. So our representation of men in the West in the news media of like men in the Middle East and Pakistan, Southeast Asia are oftentimes really one-dimensional. We see a lot of like angry men with beards on TV like all the time. So I just want you to talk about, you know, like then we see like you and your dad. And Malala and her dad. I mean, every time you see Malala, it's her dad. It's her dad standing up for her. It's her dad that's right there with her. Her dad, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So can you talk about that? You know, like these the men that are encouraging women to, I mean, like part of the thing we say at Connecther is we can't do this work of advancing women and girls without men. I mean, assault doesn't just happen by itself.
Exactly.
Someone's doing it, So, there are a lot of men who are supportive and who are on board.
Exactly. I mean, it's not possible. We are a population. We are not men and women. We are a population, and populations work together. They, like it said, a person. We are not men and women. We would be a person working together. It makes it only possible. When we are working with the women in the villages, we are also working with the tribal men over there. We actually hold cricket tournaments to bring them together and learn about these customs. I mean, many ideas we've come up with 8 years, which would keep us alive and keep the work going as well. But the whole idea of like how we perceive things very easily. It's easy to make images. It's easy to when I come to the US, people think like they saw my dress, they see my dress and my covered head and imagine me to be very, very conservative, where I would not speak to any men and just like be shy. And that's not the whole thing. That's not how it is. People are very different, and every person, like Rumi says, I'm a very Sufism fan. Rumi says that every human being is a universe within themselves. Every man and woman are universes within themselves. And my father's universe evolved right in front of me. Right when he saw me growing up as his child, I saw him growing up as my father in front of me. From a man who did not have the strength to give her girl permission to start working on honor killings, to the day he stood up for me and said, "Who dares speak to my daughter like that? I have given her the permission. I would stand right next to her and allow her to do anything that she wants, even if it gets her into danger. I would get her out of danger." That was my father. And I just couldn't believe that.
So I have one more fun question before we break for lunch. So who is the person you met, because you've been meeting lots of famous people and all that, who's the person you met who you've been most excited about? And I have to say, right now, I know for sure it's not Bono, and I know for sure it's not Meryl Streep, because she didn't recognize those people when she met them.
She Googled them right after that.
So she Googled them afterwards, but she said she's been to so many things that she just goes up on stage whenever they tell her to go up on stage. She doesn't know who she's even going up on stage with. So, okay, if it's not Bono, whatever it's not, and I'm obsessed with Bono because I have 2 pictures of him on the screen. So, I mean, just because of the work he does. He does so much amazing work all over the world. So,
it was amazing to know them more as human beings than who they are. I mean, although it's very embarrassing not to know them. Believe me.
Do you think Meryl Streep was
a journalist? But I've been given access to Netflix just so I can know these people. I've made some really, really big blunders, but the whole thing is like when we give them a chance to introduce themselves, not like Google them and let the media talk about them. I think it's more human. And they make a better way of describing who they are than actually doing someone else doing it for them. But for me, I think more than the people who are doing things, who've done things, and who've achieved that level where they're now a celebrity, and their one word can actually influence policies and everything. Instead of them, I'm influenced by the people in my daily life, the people I meet at the shops, the shopkeepers, the people who are, looking after their goats in the mountains, that woman who's looking after her baby in my village, and my aunties who are taking care of their houses and becoming really, they're amazing women leaders in their houses. These people are the ones who are actually struggling on their daily basis to make change happen, to make a life happen. And I think that's what gets me inspired, because I'm at this stage where I don't see myself, I've achieved so much, 800 is nothing, women are dying every day, and the feeling of that urgency that comes in me is like, there are so many women being killed in the name of honor. I have to do more. This is nothing. I don't see myself at the beginning. I don't see myself at the end. I'm in between where I'm struggling every single day of my life. And I'm inspired by those people who are struggling as well. Not people who've done something, but people who are normal human beings and they're doing something from their own